Hi, my name is Kate Brown, and this is my Baba story, coming to Baba story. Um, I was a, a, a troubled teen, a little bit of a troubled teenager. I was a good kid, but pretty good upbringing. But everybody has, troubles. I grew up in the 1970s and 1980s, so you can imagine what was happening then. So I always loved Jesus and was aware of Jesus and prayed. And for a while in high school, I was involved in Young Life, which is a Christian youth group, and I took Bible literature in high school, and our family would go to church off and on, but not really solid in a church. Anyways, I found out about Baba because I was actually really, really into rock and roll. And I'm a musician, and I played piano, guitar, the flute, and sang. And I was in bands and choirs and played for the school choir. And I had a rock band, and I was very much into the Who and very, very much into Pete Townshend at the time. So around 15, I was reading all this stuff, and I found out, oh, Pete Townshend has this guru named Meher Baba, Avatar Meher Baba. And so I thought I would look into it because I knew that Pete had had trouble and Baba helped him. So I was having trouble and I wanted help. And plus I was getting other help. I was in the wild party scene, troubled youth scene, too much of that, And so at about, no, that was about 15, but it took a while to find a Baba book because this was before the internet. And so I found a Baba book when our family went on vacation. I grew up in the Northwest, and we went on vacation in Vancouver, BC, Canada, and I went into an Eastern bookstore, and there was a Baba book. And I was with my mother, and I said, oh, look. So my mother, by the way, is Faith Knox, and she also came to Baba and has a video coming to Baba story. And she passed away 2 years ago, and so did my father, passed away 2 years ago. Anyways, back to when I found out about Baba. So I found these books, and I bought as many as I could. I was still in high school. By then, I was a junior in high school, I think. And, or senior, I can't remember, senior. So I graduated in 1986, and I had study hall class. In high school, we had this thing called study hall where you could do your homework or study. Well, I brought in my Baba books. Actually, it was my junior year, and so it was 1985, and I was reading God to Man and Man to God and The Mastery of Consciousness, and The Beloved. Those were the first three powerful books, and then the discourses. And everything I read was like jumping out at me like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. It's everything I ever believed in more, and it just made everything make sense. And my heart was wide open. And then I was just falling for Baba, falling in love with Baba. So my mother was very, very worried that I was getting into some cult. And then she started reading the books because she wanted to know what I was reading. And then she had the same experience. She was like, oh my gosh, this is great. So by 1985, the spring of 1985, my mother and I, came to the Meher Spiritual Center in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, for the first time because we were living in Oregon. So my mother and I kind of came to Baba at the same time, which is wonderful. And I'm a musician, and she also was a musician. She was also a nurse, but she was a piano player and a piano teacher. So anyways, we had a lot in common to connect us. Our first trip to the Meher Center in 1985, we met Kitty Davy, which was lovely, in Dilruba. We met Kitty. We met Margaret Krask, who was very, very, very old at that time. And of course, we met Jeff Wolverton because he was there. And I was 17. I was 17 years old. and I'm now 57. Anyways, so that was a lovely trip. And then right when we got back to Oregon, we both said, we need to go to India. So we were hooked. My troubled youth was behind me. I was letting all that go. And, you know, I always loved Jesus. And I, of course, fell in love with Baba. And I found the connection, you know. All roads leading upward. So we went to India. Our first trip in India was 1987. And it was a hard trip for my mom because of the culture shock, but she got over it. And for me, oh boy, I mean, it was just amazing. And when I walked, I didn't know what to expect. But when I first went into the Samadhi, back then it was different. You could be in the Samadhi by yourself and be there for a long time. And I walked in, you know, I met Nanakare, I met Mansari, and Mira, and Erich, and Bao, and everybody, you know, Mani. So I walked into the Samadhi, and the very first thing I did was just fall to my knees and just start sobbing. I was just sobbing. I couldn't stop crying. And then this Indian woman came in behind me, and she was just stroking my back, like, you know. And I don't even know why I was crying, but I couldn't stop. But finally I did. So that was my first experience in the Samadhi. And it was wonderful. And we became fast friends. My mother and I became fast friends with Dara and Amrit, as many people do. And we went to Amrit's boutique, and, you know, and Dara and I, of course, talked music, and had a very strong connection, and still do. We still do today. So, so that was that. And since 1985, I've been to India 6 times. I went 1985 to Myrtle Beach the first time, Mayor Center. 1987, India. 1989, 1993, 2000, 2020, and 2024. And I hope to go again soon. My mother, after her culture shock, ended up going 13 times. She loved it. So anyways, going to Meherzad was always a treat, and being with the Mandali and Mandali Hall and hiking Seclusion Hill and all the special places there, and feeling Baba's presence and love. And what a world of difference it made for me in my everyday life, as it does with so many. I'm so grateful. And I, back then, again, there was no computers. There was, you know, not the world we have today. And so I used to write letters. I wrote songs, I wrote poetry. I just published a poetry book called Music of the Heart. That's available at Shariar Press and Amazon. But I wrote letters. I wrote a lot of letters to the Mandali. And the Mandali wrote back. And what a help that was. That was such a love that they could be so natural with people to respond on a human level, from heart to heart, as if they were your family, as if they were your best friend, as if they were your grandparents, just extending that love, you know, and that care to help give direction. Because I would ask them questions like, what do I do? You know, I would actually share my personal struggles at the time, and they responded so lovingly and actually rather promptly, which is a surprise, because they were busy people. And of course, what stands out the most is Mani saying, remember to always take life lightly and God seriously. Take life lightly and God seriously. Charles Haynes was just here last week, and he spoke of that and reminded us of that as well. But so take life lightly and God seriously. And I was like, that makes sense. And that makes it so much easier. And then, of course, Mani was drawing her little, I was still young, you know, I was like, I don't know, late teens, you know. So I would draw I drew stuff for Mara, hearts and doves and peace signs and, all this peace and love. And she was so sweet and responded, of course, by hand of probably Devana or Casey, right? And so when Mara passed, I got to meet Mara and have tea with Mara and be with her on her porch. But when Mara passed, Casey actually sent me back the letters I sent to Mara. And it was so sweet because I was like, oh gosh, I can't believe this. Of course, I had the letters that Mara had written back to me by someone else's hand. Maybe she signed her name. Hopefully that's her signature. And they also sent me a necklace that was Mara's. And I can't remember what else, but I have a necklace that was Mara's. And of course, I have some Baba hair like everybody. Dara gave me a Baba button that Baba gave Dara. I was like, oh my gosh. So these are treasures that hopefully when I go, before I go, I pass them on to the Mara Spiritual Center or someone that has these archives and that are very meaningful, sentimental, and very meaningful treasures. So anyways, that was that. a lot of trips to India, a lot of interaction with the Mandali and Mohammed. I kind of had a crush on Mohammed. I'm sure a lot of people did. I mean, he was cute. And a time with Erico, which was nice. Just the peace and the wonderful spirit there, the love spirit. Very special. And Ellora Caves and Sai Baba's cave, all that. So how this affected my life was tremendous. I got out of my troubled youth. Of course, then I had to process it all in my 20s. And, when I was in my 20s and 30s and 40, geez, it took forever. I'm still processing that. I'm kidding. But I'm so grateful. So what happened then was you developed a relationship, right, with Baba. And I ended up moving when we got back to Oregon in one of those trips. Oh, first let me say, on one of those trips, I met a very special Baba connection in my life, which was Dagmar and Laura Lay, who live in France. And they became very close friends in Baba and a Baba connection. I ended up living with them for a while and being Laura's nanny, her au pair, which was great, and to be with Francis and have that experience of all that. So so after, I don't know which trip, in 1993, when sometime back in Oregon, I was married. And he was not a Baba guy. He's a good person. Everything was good. But I knew I needed to be in Myrtle Beach. I just knew that I had to shift my focus. And he couldn't and wouldn't move. And one of my trips to the Samadhi, I put my wedding ring on the Samadhi. And I just asked Baba what to do. When I got back to Oregon, it was pretty clear. I just needed to be in Myrtle Beach. I was still young, didn't have kids. So I just had to end that chapter in my life and start a new chapter. So I came to Myrtle Beach in 1993 to be at the Mara Spiritual Center and work in Myrtle Beach and live in Myrtle Beach. That was 1993, and now it's 2025, and I'm still here. I really love it. I love being next to the center. I am now also part-time staff on the Mara Spiritual Center. And it's a wonderful place to work. I'm very grateful. And I also work at a Catholic church in North Myrtle Beach. I've been there for 9 years as a piano player, piano accompanist for the English and Spanish Mass. And I teach music lessons. I'm pretty busy. I'm too busy. But I'm grateful for everything. So being in Myrtle Beach was a huge change. My mother was still in Oregon. And I was trying to implement, this concept of life with the avatar, life with the Christ, as we all do, and yet all these sanskars and impressions in the way. Gosh darn it. What are you going to do? Well, you just do what you have to and say his name and keep loving him, hold on to his Dhaman and keep going. So, life in Myrtle Beach. So, my stepfather, my mom and stepdad were still in Oregon. My dad was in Seattle, and my stepmom, and that was a whole separate life. They were accepting to Baba, but didn't come to Baba. But I got my dad on the center. Anyways, my mother and her husband, my stepdad, were in Oregon, and they went to India several times together too, which was lovely that we could share this. And unfortunately, my stepfather passed away early of liver cancer. And so he was a doctor and died in the year 2000. So then my mother, Faith, who many of you know, moved to Myrtle Beach. And she wanted to be near me, but she also, of course, wanted to be near the Mare Spiritual Center. So she moved to Myrtle Beach, and that was nice that we were closer. And I still have a family out in Oregon. But, of course, she remarried again while in Myrtle Beach. And unfortunately, she got breast cancer and had that struggle for many years and passed away from that. But she loved being part of the Mare Spiritual Center. And so it was wonderful to share that with her, to have that bond with your mom and Baba. I don't know if you have a family member you share Baba with. It really is a lovely thing. I was not born into a Baba family, obviously. Some people are, and I'm sure that's a whole different experience. But I was my mother's connection, which is very special. And while back in Oregon, I'm going to backtrack a bit, my mother was a nurse and worked at the hospital where she met my stepdad. And there was another nurse there that she knew who was a hospice nurse, and many of you know him. His name is Doug Hare. And Doug Hare and my mom were friends, and he ended up taking care of my grandmother in hospice and my stepfather in hospice. And he came into my mom's house in Oregon one day and saw the picture on the wall of the man with the big mustache. Who's that man with the big mustache? And my mom said, well, that's Avatar Mayor Baba. And the rest is history. So my mother was Doug Hare's connection. Doug Hare has his own story he'll have to share with you. He ended up moving to Myrtle Beach and living in India many years and working with Dr. Ann at the Center Mare Pilgrim Retreat in India, in Mehrabad, Ahmednagar. So that's a nice connection to have too. It's all links where there's a connection, So I love saying the Arti. I don't get to many of the programs. I don't even get to the Arti because I'm always working. I think my mission, my sanskars in this life are real. It's all about work. But hopefully it's burning other impressions, I do work a lot, so I get to what I can, and I try to get to the most important ones, but the main thing is that I get to the center because I feel the energy. And I'm working there, actually. I'm part-time staff, so I am there. And I get that experience. But you don't have to go there to feel Baba. You don't have to go to a church to be with God, and it's all within. But it's nice. It's kind of like a little extra treat, And the people you meet and have connections with, I've helped out with the youth sahavas, and that's always fun, volunteering. And I'm not an evangelist by any means, but I try to, if the subject comes up and it feels appropriate, I try to help inform people if they're interested. And everybody has their own path. And I love the church I work at. I feel very connected to Jesus, and I love the people and the congregation and the music, and I feel God there as much as the center, and vice versa. I would love to go to Bethlehem. I would love to go to Jerusalem. I just don't feel it's safe to go there. But we are so fortunate we can go to India. I think we're very fortunate to go to India and the Marist Spiritual Center. When I first moved here, it was 1993, and I was like just in my early 20s. I can't remember. Early 20s. All I had was $900 in my pocket and an idea that I should be living in Myrtle Beach. So I packed up all my stuff in boxes and shipped it out, and got on an airplane and came out here. My mother was pretty brave to let me go. While I had left a marriage to come out here, I felt the direction and the pull that this is where I needed to be. I did go up to New York for a while and thought maybe New York City, and I thought, oh, this is too hard. I'm not going to do New York City. And the weather in Myrtle Beach is so much better. The weather's good here. It's affordable. Baba chose a perfect place for his center. Oh boy, did he choose. Thank goodness for Elizabeth. Thank goodness for her father who donated the land, gave the land to Elizabeth that she could donate it. And it's just a wonderful place. If you're interested in the Marist Spiritual Center, I hope you can come and get a tour. Anybody can get a tour, and it's free to come. Very beautiful land of a spiritual retreat center where you can find God and connect with God within. So if I got down to apples, I wouldn't have changed any, well, I probably would have changed a lot in my life. I would never have changed finding out about Baba. And it's definitely the focus of my life. And the presence of God, the Spirit of God, being with God, I talk to Baba, I talk to Jesus, I talk to God, I talk to whoever will listen. No, I'm kidding. Because I absolutely know this is all illusion. I know I'm not this body. I'm not this body. I am the spirit. I know we are eternal spirits. And I try to just stick to principles and do the best I can. And I try to make good choices. I don't always make the right choice. But I believe in doing good and not harming anyone, and trying to spread love and peace and a smile. And there's a quote that Kitty Davy it really doesn't matter what you look like, but it does. That appearance is pleasing to others. If you can be pleasing to others, it's helpful to spread that energy, but more than anything, to wear a smile, which of course we all know the cliche. But really, helping spread a smile and joy to others is what Mani was a perfect example of. Perfect example. I don't know anybody else that always looked radiant and smiled no matter what. She was amazing, and how grateful I am that I got to meet her and know her and talk with her. And how she cared for Mara. That quote is so good that it makes me just remember, keep your chin up, no matter what's happening. Remember this, take life lightly and God seriously. But that still means you have to pay your bills. You have to work, pay your bills. Baba likes responsibility. Baba likes practicality. Baba likes people to do their job, show up on time, do the work. But he also likes people to relax and have fun, like his sense of humor that Charles Haynes was just talking about. So sometimes I think Baba's humor is a stab in the back, and you're like, oh, really, Baba? Come on. You're kidding me. Okay, for example, I don't trust the Dooney. I do not trust the Dooney. No way. Because when I was young, I put a lot in the Dooney. I put way too much. I didn't know what I was doing. And like, you know what I put in? I put in my false self. I was like, hello, that's like really crazy. So, anyways, I've put many things in the Dooney. I will never put anything in the Dooney again. I respect the Dooney. The Dooney is a very powerful spirit and an entity of its own. And I love going to the Dooney in India, but I don't put anything in. I like having bonfires. You know, it's like ancient. You know, it brings man to spirit, mankind to spirit. But yeah, the Dooney is a powerful thing. I do believe to constantly try to continue to work on yourself. Of course, Baba's working on us regardless, whether we know it or not. And we have a direct link to the current avatar, which is amazing, which is an amazing blessing. Okay. So this is the story of Alaba helping me to quit smoking. I smoked young on when I was in my troubled teens, and I probably smoked for 5 years, way too much. And I think it was 1989, my second trip to Mehrabad, and I was in Meherazad, and they had a smoking section in Meherazad, which actually back then was right under the veranda on the cover, almost by the blue bus, which is scary, right? And I was smoking, and it must have been horrible to see a woman smoking in India, right? And an American, how tacky could I be, right? A woman smoking in Meherazad right there by the blue bus. Okay, that's about as, yeah. So, but I was young. I was very young. And I was minding my business, and, you know, I was polite. And Alaba, who was such a wonderful character, and people remember him to tell you when it's time to get on the bus. You know, at Meherazad, he would come and blow the whistle. And he goes like, his shoulders would always come up. Time to go, time to go. And anyways, Alaba is one of the Mandali who lived there in Meherazad. So he came to me and he said, you need to quit smoking. He says, I'll help you. And I'm thinking, great, how? And he takes me to around the back to his room, where he had a little room behind all those rooms in Meherazad, Mandali Hall, around in the back, a very small little room. There's this little tiny alley, and he walks like this, you know. So I'm following him. And he said, excuse me, he said, you, sit in the chair, face the corner. He made me face the corner, and pray to Baba to help you quit smoking. And he had me do that every time I came to Meherazad on that trip. And that trip, I believe I was in India for 3 months. So I was young, I had the time. Plus, I lost my luggage. My luggage got stuck in London, so I didn't have many clothes. But I went shopping. I got to borrow some clothes, but I think my luggage arrived actually when I finally left. But so I prayed every time in Meherazad, which was 2 or 3 times a week, going to Meherazad for 3 months, in the corner, facing the corner, literally, you know, like a bad girl. But he had a shrine there. He had like an altar, you know, a little altar in his room. And I was praying to Baba to help me stop smoking. When I got home from India, actually on that trip, I quit. I quit smoking and I haven't smoked since. And that was 1989, and now it's 2025. And I'm so grateful because it was hard, as many of you know if you've smoked, how hard it is to quit. And I, after that, in my early 20s, developed asthma really bad. And, and I still have it off and on. In fact, 2 years ago, I was in the emergency room with asthma, bronchitis, and pneumonia. So, and I don't smoke. I do not smoke. I just had a really bad bronchitis that got aspirated. So anyways, I have an inhaler and blah, blah, blah. But so I'm very grateful. So I did quit smoking. Thank you, Alaba. I am so grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I really don't believe I could have done it without his help. And I just love him. I try to obey him. And I ask for his help and his guidance. And I couldn't imagine any other life. I couldn't. I'd be pretty lost. I'd be pretty lost without him, quite frankly. I love Jesus. I love Jesus. It's all the same, right? But it's like having a hotline, when you have the current connection, it's just, it's right there, bam, it's kind of faster connection. So it's a wonderful thing. But I do love being in the church and having that same feeling. I feel like I must have been with Jesus, It's very strong. And in my poetry book that I just published, there's a story of Jesus in the back. It's a short story I wrote when I was in high school. Actually, I wrote part of it in India. I remember sharing it with Erico. The story's called The Kingdom by the Sea, and it's in my poetry book, Music of the Heart. And it's an epic. The whole story rhymes. It's a book of poetry. So I remember writing part of that in India, and I shared it with Erico. And he's so funny. He says, "Oh, it's really good, Kate. It's really good." And he graded it. He gave me an A-. I said, "Gee, thanks, Erico." But hey, I got an A-. So yeah, that was sweet. So I don't know, I just go about my life. I work way too much. I'm asking Baba how to simplify my life. But I'm grateful for every opportunity, and I'm grateful for the work. I'm grateful for Baba and the spiritual center, and I'm grateful for the church. I'm grateful for everything. I try not to get too down about the news and everything going on in the world, and just think of God. Just think of God and keep going. I think that's my story. My story continues. Oh, and I guess the only other thing to say is how much I connect with God through music. And I encourage people to find their passion, to find their God. Because I believe God is in your passion, if it's a good thing. And it can help you really connect to God and strengthen who you are. I couldn't imagine life without music, and I'm very grateful for that too. So thank you so much. I'm Kate Brown, and this is my story, and I'm sticking to it. Peace. Jai Baba.